Hello, this is Chuck Crumpton. Welcome to another episode of the Chuck Crumpton Show. So good to have you on this beautiful afternoon. I have three quick favors to ask of you before we get started, and we'll jump in with our guest in just a moment. But the three favors are simply this. Number one, subscribe to the show. It just helps you to kind of keep the cookies at high level and to make the show sort of at the front of your mind. And it's just easy. Just subscribe on your favorite platform. We're on all the major platforms around the world. But if you would hit that button. Number two, if you would share today's show, I have a feeling it's going to be a great show. And somebody, in addition to yourself, probably wants to hear, what's going on with the show in this particular episode. So if you would, please share that. And then number three, leave us a review, hopefully a 5-star if we're doing it well. If we're not, then please let me know how we can do it better. If you don't like the show, there are thousands of podcasts out there. You can certainly find one that maybe suits your needs better. But if you do like the show, if you like the conversation, please leave us a 5-star review. And we'll be back right after this.
Thank you for tuning into another episode of The Chuck Crumpton Show, a non-for-profit podcast making a difference, where conversations are real and raw. We are grateful for your support as we build one of the fastest-growing podcasts in the U.S. Please subscribe. More information can be found at thechuckcrumptonshow.com. Thank you for listening. Here's Chuck.
Thank you, Megan, and welcome to another Chuck Crumpton Show. This is going to be a lot of fun. I love business, and I believe that small businesses in America, 2 to 200 employees or so, is the engine that drives our world economy. The messages you hear from the Chuck Crumpton Show are real world business perspectives. I've been incredibly blessed to have built and sold 2 of my own companies, both that started in the tool shed of my garage. As a matter of fact, this podcast 3 years ago also started in my tool shed, where conversations are real and raw. I am a practitioner of business. This is not a conversation about business theory. At Bull Street Mergers, we help business owners build and sell remarkable companies. If we can help you, please reach out to us at bullstreetmergers.com. Okay, let's get after this. My guest today is Ron Holt. Ron is the founder of Pink Zebra Moving. I love that title. I love that name of your company. And their motto is the world's first happy moving company. His company aims to disrupt the local moving industry by providing a better, more positive customer experience. From surprise meals prior to move day to fun antics at unexpected times, Pink Zebra Moving wants to make moving fun for its customers. The company currently has 10 markets, and they plan to open many more in the next 5 years. Prior to this business, and we'll unpack both in our conversation today, Ron built 2 maids and a mop from one single location into nearly 100 locations around the country before exiting to focus his efforts on Pink Zebra Moving. So with that as our background, Ron Holt, welcome to the Chuck Crumpton Show.
Doug, I'm so glad to be here. Honored to have the conversation. I'm sure everybody's excited to talk about dirty toilets and homes that need to be moved today.
Well, listen, my friend, I've got a feeling it's going to be a great conversation. We were connecting a little bit before we came on the show. Of course, I'm in beautiful Charleston, South Carolina. You're from the Southeast. You and your wife live in Birmingham, Alabama, which is also a beautiful city. And you have to be riding high on the Georgia Bulldogs, man. You guys look so good. Is there a three-peat that's coming?
I sure hope so. I don't want to be too greedy though, because it was a long dry spell prior to those 2 championships. So I'm going to take what I can get at this point. But yeah, of course, I live in like Birmingham, where it's either Auburn or Alabama craziness. So it's been a good run.
Well, something tells me you guys have taken ownership of one of those teams in Alabama. We won't get
Don't
into
tell my wife that.
we won't get into local politics, but you guys have a heck of a program and a lot of respect for your.
Oh yeah,
work.
well, I'm a big fan. Hopefully we keep it going.
Yeah, there you go. I think everybody I've ever met from UGA are just darn good people. Just good
Yeah,
people.
well, I think so. I mean, I've heard a few people complain about, grown men barking, and stuff like that. But outside of that, we're pretty good people.
There you go. There you go. Well, we're gonna just unpack, the tremendous success you had with two maids and a mop, and then I really want to unpack what you're doing with Pink Zebra Moving. Yeah, and we'll talk some personal, we'll talk some business stuff. My first question I typically ask my guest, a lot of accolades, a lot of success. I want to pull you into some of those points that I want to make in the conversation, but tell us right off the bat, man, who is the real Ron Holt?
So that person has changed and evolved over my adult lifetime. If you would have talked to me just over 20 years ago, I would have told you I'm the next Warren Buffett. I'm gonna, do all these great, big, huge global things and have all sorts of dollars in the bank and try to be as humble as possible, like good old Buffett is. As I've aged and more importantly become a father, I have two awesome little kids, and they've changed everything, and so I love everything about them, love being a part of their lives. And, now I want to be a great entrepreneur. I'm still an entrepreneur at heart, and I'm still chasing Buffett, but
Yeah.
my most important goal in life is to be a great dad right now. And all the other things that come alongside of that's kind of gravy at this point.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Well, a lot of business success. I appreciate, we hear this work-life balance discussion all the time, right? I'm not sure if that's valid. I get it, right, that we need to keep things in perspective. What does that look like for you?
So I've got an interesting perspective on that. I tell this to our franchise owners all the time, both here and back at Two Maids. And so I believe that there's no such thing as that. I know that's kind of a radical way to think of it. If you love what you do, nothing, and you've probably heard this, Buffett says this even, like if you love what you do, he calls it your tap dance to work. I just call it having fun. Like what I'm doing right now, telling my story, talking about all the things that I went through to sacrifice to get to a multi-million-dollar business, to what I'm doing again now with Pink Zebra Moving.
Yeah.
It's enjoyable. It brings joy to me. It energizes me. It doesn't drain me like a job. If you told me to go out and work in the yard,
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Real
I'm
work.
drained.
Right.
It's not something I really want to do. That's work. And so, man, every day, that's one of the reasons I sold Two Maids. I'll tell you that story as we talk today. But I found myself somewhat being drained towards the end of the day. And that was a red flag for me, because I've always believed that if you love what you do, then you're going to pour a lot of effort and love into that vocation. And
Yeah.
great things are going to happen. Maybe not every day, maybe not even quickly, but they'll happen, And so work-life balance is important. Like I want to be a great dad. I want to be a great husband. I want to watch the Georgia Bulldogs on Saturday,
Yeah.
but at the same time, nothing about what I do ever feels like work, and whether you're an entrepreneur or not, you don't have to be an entrepreneur to love what you do. That's what I've chosen. That's the path that's worked for me. But love what you do. Great things are going to happen. You're never going to feel drained. You're always going to want to go back to work. Like it's been 20 years since I've hated Monday morning,
Oh.
So that to me that's work-life balance in a weird way.
Yeah, that's good, man. I like that. Dave Ramsey, one of my heroes in the financial space, says, find something that you love to do and figure out how to get paid for it, right? Um, and it sounds like you've got the professional and the personal. Not every day's different. Some days are better than others, right? For all of us, but sounds like you've got a good handle on
Yeah,
that.
I like crazy stuff, like the challenge of disrupting an industry, the challenge of taking an idea that you just thought about, by yourself one day and building that into a national brand with locations across the country. That's a huge mountain to climb, right? You don't just
Yeah.
do that. Even with money, you don't do that quickly. That challenge is fun to me. I love it. I love all the problems that come from that, all the hysteria, all the stress. It energizes me,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
that's where I find joy.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's very cool. I'm curious, and as I warned you, right, when we kind of got started, I'm big into the real and the raw, very vulnerable approach, just to life and to business. And I think it's a foundation, a cornerstone of leadership. But was there a particular point that you had that, either as an entrepreneur, as a CEO, or as a dad or husband, did you have that aha moment that you had to pivot in your life?
Oh yeah, I can tell you this. So I was like everybody, and that goes to Georgia. Got a job in Atlanta,
Yeah.
so I was a young 20-something working in Atlanta. And if you've ever lived or worked in Atlanta, traffic stinks.
Yeah.
And so I was making that daily commute, and every day I would look to the left and the right of me, and I'd see all these other cars, and everybody was just sort of staring and doing their thing and making money and doing it all over again the next day. And I come from a blue collar family. My mom and dad both worked their entire life, and continue to this day. My mom, and so work wasn't something I was afraid of. I knew it well, but it felt so empty. And so there was this moment. I was literally on Interstate 85, I-85, headed to the office, and I looked to my left, I looked to my right, like I have been doing, and I saw these empty sort of just glares, like I was having, and I had this like pit in my stomach, and I said, this can't be the rest of my life. Like at that point of my life, I had done very well in the career. I was still in my mid 20s, but I was able to travel the world in the job I was in. I was managing PhDs and chemical engineers, and making pretty good money, and high on life, should have been at least. But that that something that was missing, that pit in my stomach that I felt, I was like, man, if I double my salary or triple my salary and it's still here, that same feeling 20 years from now, I'm going to look back and reflect on this moment and go, why didn't I try something else? And so I didn't know anything about entrepreneurship. I didn't know what business ownership meant. That wasn't part of my life or upbringing. And so this is a true story. That day, this is back when they had bookstores. You could go visit bookstores
Right.
and buy these things, called books. And so during my lunch break, I drove to the area mall and I went to the bookstore, just picked out a business book because it seemed interesting. It happened to be about my guy, Warren Buffett, and just started devouring everything about Buffett and his life, both professional and personal life. And just became motivated and inspired by that, and thought that I could do the same thing.
Wow.
And I couldn't quit. I mean, I still had a whole lot of work in front of me to get to a place where I could financially do something besides work for this particular place, which is a great place to work. Nothing wrong with the organization.
Yeah.
But over the next several years, I worked my way into a place where I was able to take the plunge and start a business. It was a cleaning business of all things, but yeah, I can still see myself on that interstate right now, and how I felt that morning, and how I made sure that I was going to do something to run away from that feeling.
Wow. I love that, Ron. I really do. I had a guest on, I think in season 2, and you were a chemist, which is interesting. You went from being a chemist to starting your business, two maids and a mop.
Right.
Um, I had a young lady, again, I think in season 2, that had been a chemist and decided to pursue her passion in movies and podcast and just the sort of the entertainment industry. And she equated it to jumping off of a burning tower, which, leaving the world of being a chemist to making movies, you almost can't connect the dots, right?
Yeah,